guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Classic City Locks. Another great week of football in the books. A lot to break down here. I'm going to kick us off with a trivia question that I saw at work the other day. Hunter showed it to me, and I couldn't believe this is real. So we've all been talking about the downfall of Florida State, right, Wes?
Yep, for sure.
Truly unprecedented. 0-3, contender, conference conference favorite to nothing. How many passing yards does DJU have?
Oh, I know this. 666. Let's
Yes.
go.
There we go.
Woo!
I
Our
don't think we
first correct trivia question of the year.
if you needed any more confirmation that this team is just cursed, they have done something to upset the football gods.
I saw
Not
his stat
believable.
line today. It's like 666 passing yards, like one touchdown and two interceptions or
I
something like
couldn't
that.
believe it. I
It's
could not believe
his,
it.
his passer rating is like 49 on the
Pathetic.
season. It's 88th
Also,
in the country.
we were discussing another victim of the Dr. Pepper Fansville curse. Who was first on Dr. Pepper's Fansville?
Quinn
DJ
Ewers, right?
Quinn Ewers gets injured. DJU was on there. Caleb Williams was on there.
DJU was on
He was
Fansville.
the first one. Crazy. So bad
I'm
things
not
happening
signing
in
up for
Florida
that
State,
sponsorship.
and you got to stay away from Dr. Pepper. But good on you, Wes. I did not expect you to get that. How about you get us going into our team recaps?
Yeah, so if y'all recall, we each have a team from each of the Power Four conferences. Mike's teams are Missouri, North Carolina, Arizona, and Washington. He came around out this week with two wins and two losses. Arizona goes down to Kansas State, and Washington loses the Apple Bowl, I believe, to Washington State. That's crazy. My teams, on the other hand, in the SEC, I had Texas A&M, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and Wisconsin rounding it out. Unfortunately, also went 2-2. Texas A&M wins a just slaughter at Florida. Virginia Tech beat nobody, Old Dominion. At least this week, our teams actually played some people. Wisconsin losing to Alabama, of course. And so we'll move on to the season. Mike is eight. No, I'm sorry, 10-2, which is crazy compared to my much worse than that. We'll call it 7-6. So he's winning this competition handily so far, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a long season.
It's a different story for Pick'em. Like I said, I had two great years in a row, and I might have pulled the Florida State and done something wrong because I just have been on the wrong side of some bad beats.
That's a
Um,
great way to put it. You are Florida State this year and pick them. You just
it's a
gone from playoff hopeful to just bottom of the pack.
new week. I went 7-11, and Wes went 8-10. So this
So in
pretty
case In case y'all don't know, pick 'em. We pick the top 25 matchups each
yeah.
week against the spread, every single one of them. So it's about 18 to 20 games each week. And you want to try and be over 50%. So we're rocking close to it. Mike with a strong 42%. Not as bad as it sounds, honestly.
Yeah,
And
it could
then
be worse. And Wes is coming in at 52%. So he's hitting that benchmark. I'm hoping to bounce back this week. We'll see what happens. But before we talk about this next week, we gotta recap another wild week. First of all, I think that we have to talk about Florida. Tech Wes's Aggies went in there and smacked them around, and I'm ready to pull the plug, Wes. I'm ready to call it dead on arrival, time of death. Billy Napier experiment is over. It's
yeah,
nothing left. It's over.
the only thing that he might have left, which is why he hasn't seen the door yet, is I heard they were saying that he might still have the locker room behind him. But the beginning of the season, he was the top of the leaderboard for head coach to be fired at 4-1 odds, and
Yeah.
it's looking like he's gonna be the one.
I mean, you got to do something here. You can't keep getting embarrassed week in and week out. Like it's
Exactly. There
at
weren't
home.
high there weren't high expectations. Like you said, at home, you got to just have some play it a little closer, man. You can't be just getting destroyed in the swamp. Like, I don't know.
Pathetic.
South
But
Carolina, LSU, great game. There was kind of some
rep
questionable
ball.
officiating. Yeah. But LSU comes away out of with a tough win in Columbia, South Carolina. Hats off to the Cox, man. They put up a really good fight. Probably deserved to win too, but
Yeah, and we saw some other good conference play there across the country in fun rivalry games. Oregon finally getting their feet underneath them, just beating the snot out of Oregon State, which I
Yeah.
did not expect to happen.
That might be the Apple Bowl. I am so sorry, guys, that I misidentified the Apple Bowl.
Okay,
I
so
apologize.
we're not West Coast football experts. And then in other words, conference play, a tale as old as time. Georgia struggling on the road at Kentucky. Good Lord, weren't you at that game,
I
Wes?
was at that game, unfortunately, and I was gripping the bench in front of me the entire time. So,
But this week ended up turning out to be what exactly we thought it would be. Just a fun conference play matchups. Not a ton of crazy big top 25 games. And the one that we were excited about, Arizona got absolutely dragged by Kansas State. I mean, that unfortunately the worries I have about that team are real. They don't really have a defense. And Fafita was never really able to get rolling, which if he doesn't, there's not much they can do there. And Kansas State, well-rounded team, got to give it to them.
yeah, well, that that kind of kicks us off. I know you are going to shame me for picking Missouri. You liked Bill O'Brien's Boston College, hung on to cover that one against Missouri, but we'll
Yeah, but another legit team, maybe Boston College is real.
everybody's legit except for Florida State.
Yeah, yeah. And in other words, we kind of saw the big players of the weekend roll, Texas, Alabama, all taking care of business, except Georgia. I mean, we've seen it happen before, but they struggled. So I'm thinking that the dogs are thankful they got a week to prep for Bama.
Yeah, I would agree. So, without further ado, we'll kick it off into this week. We got four games we want to just cover briefly here. And the best one of the week, in my opinion, is Tennessee at Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Mike disagrees with me. I think that Oklahoma has a shot to pull off the upset, but also keep this game within one score. It's at -7, -6.5 right now. We have it in Pick'em at -7.5, and I am rolling with the Sooners. Boomer Sooner, baby.
I could not agree less. Oklahoma has struggled this season against a bad Houston team. Tulane, not a bad team, but they gave up 19 to them. And on the other side of the ball, what do we have? Tennessee, 71-0 against Kent State. I know, not a Power Four team or anything, but they beat North Carolina State 51-10. They've only given up 13 points this year. The offense is still clicking, and I think the defense is legit enough. I'm not really, if I'm Tennessee and you're giving me a 6.5 point line, I'm not worried about that. I think they're going to go in there. They're going to beat the bricks off Oklahoma and let them know, like, welcome to the SEC. This is how we play ball.
You can't use the past to predict the future always. This sport, every time they
I
put on the pads,
understand that.
every
But
time they put on the pads, whatever you did the week before, you could have got blown out by 60 or you could have won by 60. You got
trend,
to get between the tackles and you got to run the ball, you got to pass the ball, and you just got to hit people hard. And I think
that's
that's exactly what this game is going to be. Tennis, that's where the line is telling you here. Tennessee, everybody probably would expect them to smoke Oklahoma, and it's a one score game. So I like riding with the underdog in this one.
I'm going to stick with what I can see. We're 3 weeks in, things are starting to develop, trends are developing. I think that this is going to be a massacre.
So doubting Thomas, I'll call you for the rest of the season. You got to see it to believe it, apparently.
But it is going to be a good game. I agree. I'm excited to see a fun new SEC matchup. But up next, a line that I feel more confident in as well. Miami is going on the road to play USF, who we all know hung around Bama a little bit, but they ended up pulling away. Miami favored by around 16, 16 and a half here. I'm going to stick with what I'm seeing. A legit team, complete Heisman candidate at the helm. I just don't see how this isn't a blowout either.
Yeah, I don't see Miami slipping in this one. South Florida's got a quality team, I will say. And I think the only reason this line's not bigger is they kind of have maybe Miami, Georgia Tech vibes from last year.
Mhm.
Kind of shows up for the big games and then forgets about the little guys not prepared. But I'm with you. I probably prefer Miami in this one.
Yeah.
Utah, Oklahoma State. The winner of this is probably in the Big 12 championship, folks. This is a one score, one field goal line, really. We got it at 2.5 in favor of Oklahoma State. It's now 1 point in favor of Utah. So you got to lay a point with Utah. And I honestly, I kind of like Oklahoma State in this environment. I'm going to take them even with the 2.5 points to cover here. I think Ollie Gordon finally comes alive this season.
Exactly.
Alan Bowman continues to light it up. And Cam Rising, get him out of here. He's been there for 20
Washed.
years. he's like the new Hunter Renfro of college football. So
Well, West, we have to be fair here because Oklahoma State's QB, this is, I think the
I
combined age of the
didn't.
starters here is like 49 years
I
old.
was hoping you weren't going to bring that up.
I am going to ride with you here. I agree. And you forgot to mention it, made of glass, Cam Rising, injured again earlier this season. He cuts his hand on the water coolers falling into the sideline, and he almost got tetanus. They were worried he got tetanus. So is that going to impact his throwing? I don't know. I'm going to stick with Oklahoma State here. Like you were saying, Wes, I think Ollie Gordon has a breakout game here. They've been having to rely on the passing game, and it's, I mean, it hasn't been pretty, but it's worked. So if they're able
Yeah.
to get a breakout run game here, I think this is going to be a good win.
Yeah, it's time for them to come alive this season
Yeah.
if ever they're going to do it. Last game we want to talk about, and then we'll wrap it up for you folks. USC at Michigan. So that is the University of Southern California, not South Carolina, as I confused earlier today. The Trojans looking very hot this season. They go in 5.5 point favorites to the Big House. And Michigan, we talked before, just kind of disappointing this season. I'm going to ride with the Trojans here. Michigan, I mean, like they win this game, they kind of recoup some of what they lost, but they're not the same team anymore. Switching quarterbacks though, which could give them a better edge here, but
Yeah, I think that I'm unfortunately going to agree with you here as well. Michigan just, it feels like an incomplete team. They lost so many pieces. Head coach is gone, and USC on the other side, I feel like they've been trending up. They got a hard fought win against LSU, and then they just went out and manhandled Utah State, who a lot of people thought were going to give them trouble, and they blanked them 48 nothing. Nothing.
yeah.
Um, you got other side, Arkansas State goes into the big house and scores 18, and it's a 10-point game. I think that we got to stick with USC here. 4.5. It's small enough line where we got to take what we can see.
And I was just thinking about this. I really love USC's defense this year. And then Michigan's defense, on the other hand, is their strong suit. So I just
Yeah.
looked up the over under is 44 points for this game. I would probably ride the under here. I don't know, man. I kind of interpret that as like a 28-17 game. I like under 44 here. I know
Yeah.
it's going to be a stretch, but
Another thing I'd like to say about USC real quick is you look at Miller Moss at quarterback for them. Obviously, huge shoes to fill there at that position.
them.
And he's come into that team and he's done what he needed to do. Nothing crazy, nothing flashy, game manager football, which is what you really need when your defense steps up to the plate at a program like that. If you can manage games like he has, remain calm and under pressure, and we're continuing to see them trend upwards, I'm gonna stick with that here.
Yeah, and there you have it. This should be a good week. I think this week will probably be better than last week. And they just keep getting better. I can't believe we're already at week 3 here. It's moving quickly, folks. It'll be November before you know it, and we'll be in rivalry week. But
Crazy.
it's been a fun season so far. Thank you for joining us. We'll let you know next time how Pick'em turns out. Comment if you'd like to see anything new on the show. And as always, lock 'em down, folks.